Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody can hear me. If you can, can I just request everyone to just give me a quick thumbs up, please?
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. On yet another wet, rainy day in Mumbai on a Saturday, I want to thank each one of you for taking times out and coming for our second episode of our web series called the Think Tank. A quick introduction about myself. I am Ankit Bansal. I founded Sapphire Human Solutions along with my co-founder, Mr. Anand Rathi of Anand Rathi Securities almost now 12 years back. This was a time when startups were not as cool as they are today. And being a founder, you still had to ask many questions, answer many questions. So it's been a delightful journey over the last 12 years. We are a retained executive search firm. We've now completed more than 900 CXO facilitations with more than 180 clients. Right from top multinationals to Indian companies to even startups and mid-tier corporates across a variety of industries: BFSI, infra, real estate, consumer, pharma, healthcare, consulting, technology, and other sectors and industries. Coming to Think Tank, Think Tank is really one of our knowledge initiatives where, Sapphire is trying to help our stakeholders community, which is the CEOs, promoters, to help them become even better leaders and grow their companies further. We feel that, there is nothing like listening to people who've already been there, done that, and achieve a certain level of pinnacle and success in their lives. And to do that today with us, we have somebody who's a doyen of his industry, who's been a luminary for all of us. I think somebody, though it is a very cliched statement, but somebody who's actually redefined real estate, as we understand today in India. We are all on mutes, but can we, give a show of hands to Dr. NIRANJAN HIRANANDANI? He doesn't need any introduction. I'm gonna still try and, do my little two bits around it. Dr. Hirandani founded the firm along with his brother Surendra Hiranandani. He's a chartered accountant. Doctor, I'm very happy. I'm a chartered accountant as well. So it's so nice to see a senior fellow. He's also done his doctorate in philosophy. His subject was Housing Revolution in India, Challenges and Prospects. He spearheads as the national president, NAREDCO, National Real Estate Development Council. He's also the president of ASSOCHAM. He's member of RERA Constellation Cell owned by Maharashtra RERA body. He's also on the board of National Skill Development Corporation. He's a trustee of 14 colleges, 6 schools, 2 hospitals, 3 temples, and has been named by Forbes as one of the 100 richest Indians. It's my utter pleasure and sheer delight to have Dr. Hiranandani. Thank you so much, doctors, to take out time and spend some time today with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We also have with us, a galaxy of achievers, CEOs, founders, coming from, different industries. Though I can say I can see a large flavor of construction, real estate. So we've got people from real estate, co-working spaces, construction, infra, design, architecture. So, I'm going to request everybody now to, switch on your, videos if you can, please, and request everybody to give their quick introductions about themselves and more about their companies. We have a lot to cover, and we would want to, have this as a very participative session. So if I can, request everybody to keep their introductions below a minute. I know we'll all love to talk and, introduce our companies, but in the interest of time, my humble request, please keep your introduction below a minute and more about your organization. So can I first ask Shashi Kiran to help us know more about himself and FalconBrick?
So my name is Sashi. I'm one of the founders of a Bangalore-based startup called FalconBrick Technologies. We are a construction management solution on a mobile app. That's what we are. So we basically, it's an end-to-end mobile app-based system which helps builders and construction companies automate their end-to-end site construction processes and monitor projects real time on their mobile phones itself. And that's the need of the hour today. So, given the fact that there is a RERA, there is a pressure on builders to complete projects on time. Plus, in a post-COVID scenario, it's not easy for senior management to go and take updates on site progress. So this technology helps you automate the process and helps you monitor. Let's say if you have a residential project, right from a project to a tower to an individual unit level on your phone itself. That's the whole idea. And we've been in the business for about 4 years and happy to be part of this. We've got customers throughout the country. I'm really happy to meet all of you and interact with Mr. Hiranandani and all of you as well, other like-minded entrepreneurs. Thanks a lot.
Hello, good morning, everybody. This is Asim Tewari, and I'm predominantly infrastructure and real estate construction. So I had been working as a CEO of Bharat Road Network Limited and CEO of Soma Isolux, which is a subsidiary of Isolux Corson. And prior to that, ILFS. I also had the privilege and honor of meeting Dr. Hiranandani way back in 2005. And he, in fact, along with Mr. Zarsix Mistry, and we spent some good time together. And that was when I was dealing with the Ambe Valley and Lavasa projects and developing infrastructure for them. So that is why I come from real estate in the industry as well as infrastructure industry. But for the last 10 years, I had been working as in CXO positions in infrastructure sector, sure, especially road concession business. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So guys, pleasure connecting and great to be part of this series. I run a co-working business in India from last 4 odd years, and I've been successfully running it. People call it remotely, but how do I run a kind of a real estate business? But I've been doing successfully. Yes, challenging times currently for sure. I have fond memories of Hiranandani buildings in my early days of Mumbai, where I've actually built my career selling within Hiranandani premises to a lot of BPOs. So I possibly know Bombay better than the place I belong from. So I've traveled on my feet. So fond memories, and surely the current times are challenging, but I think people who have got the fundamentals right, I think a lot of people in our industry have gone on the valuation mode and the typical startup. I think people who have always stick to the fundamentals, and I'm sure Mr. Hiranandani will agree to it, that sustainability of any company is important, then we'll get through this. And I'm very positive on what's going to come for our industry. And we currently are present in close to 20 plus cities in India and can provide solutions in 30 cities across India from a co-working and enterprise managed spaces. And, we are very positive of what's going to come for all of us as an industry. And glad to see some other colleagues from the industry as well on the call. So happy to hear their thoughts as well.
I'm Sachin Manushali. I originally am a civil servant. I belong to the 1989 batch of civil service. I left Government of India in 2007 to join Mr. Prem Kishan Gupta and his other partners to start a rail transportation company for transportation of containerized cargo. It's for last 13 years that we have been operating this business. This business involves development of intermodal terminals where railroad switch of containers is possible, as well as customs clearance of imported cargo and export cargo is done under custom bond. There are warehousing spaces. There are spaces where containers are stacked. It's essentially a part of international logistics chain. It's a company with an investment of about 1,250 crore rupees. We have a top line close to 1,000 crore rupees now, and it's the leading private sector operator in intermodal space. Until recently, we had Blackstone USA as a part of the Gateway Rail enterprise, and the company, out of its own flowed back profits, has been able to buy back and provide an exit to Blackstone India in 2018. It's a company which is looking forward to growth in the space of development of intermodal terminals, not only from international transportation point of view, but also from the point of view of providing rail cum road transportation for the domestic trade. That's a brief introduction of the company as well as my career in private sector after having left Government of India. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone, and good morning, Dr. Hirananan. It's a pleasure seeing and meeting you. I'm Samarth. Currently, I'm sitting out of Goa, which is the headquarters of my company. I've spent about 10 plus years in the corporate world working for companies like IBM, and that's when the entrepreneurial bug kind of bit. And we started something which is India's first electric vehicle experience platform. So you realize that there was a gap between the brands and the consumer, and hence the adoption of cleaner mobility was becoming a challenge. So we launched in 2018 with BLive, which was India's first electric vehicle tourism initiative. And in a short span of time, we are rated #1 on TripAdvisor across locations. We have long-term partnership with all premier chains like Club Mahindra, Taj, multiple other folks. And just recently, about 10 days back, we launched India's first electric vehicle store, which is an online store which will be showcasing best brands under one roof.
Hi, Dr. Hiranandani. I run a dermatology startup. We're funded by Ivy Cap Ventures, and we essentially partner with private practices of dermatologists who don't have necessary infrastructure to provide aesthetic services to consumers, and that accounts for almost 70 to 80% of private practices in dermatology today. We compete with brands like Kaya, VLCC, etc. We're a young company with 22 clinics across 2 cities. Business is a bit affected, which would be a euphemistic way of saying how affected we are. But yeah, it's a first of its kind model globally where we've partnered with young dermatologists, young doctors, and enabled them to quickly ramp up their practices, which would have normally taken them 10 to 12 years, going by how things used to be. So that's what we do.
Good morning, everyone. WSP is an engineering consulting company. Globally, it comes within the top 5 companies. The primary nature of consulting is about any kind of a building construction, bridge construction, hotels, atomic plants, airports, and the company is based out of Montreal, Canada, and present in 50 countries. And we have a fairly reasonably medium-sized business in India with close to 1,500 people. Globally, we have 50,000. In India, 1,500, and majority of the work which we do in India is for our international clients. I work there as a CFO, and it's a good company to work for. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good morning. So I'm CEO of Cube Highways. Cube Highways is one of the first generation FDIs into this country for investment in infrastructure. We started our journey sometime in 2015. So what we do is basically we give exit to the construction companies or the Indian road developers, and then operate and maintain those projects for the rest of the concession. So today we operate about 2,000 lane kilometers. So but for COVID, by this time we would have been probably the largest road operator, definitely in India, probably one of the largest in the world. So our assets under management now, in terms of equity investment, close to $2 billion, with an enterprise value of $3,500 billion. So the sponsors of this fund, the Cube Highways, so it's basically a Singapore-based entity. So iSquared Capital, a global infrastructure fund, initially started this platform. Later, IFC of World Bank, the Sovereign Wealth of Abu Dhabi, a series of consortium organizations from Japan, including some of Government of Japan's funds. So they are the sponsors. So has seen kind of a tremendous growth in the last 5 years. And today, if anyone goes to ministry, like obviously, they in some sense compare Cube Highways parallel to National Highways Authority of India, which in fact is a regulator of this sector.
Sure. Good morning to all, and thank you so much for having me over as well. It's always such a pleasure to check out Niranjan Uncle's wisdom. What better way to do it than that? So SmartWorks essentially is India's largest managed office space provider with a footprint of 4.5 million square foot spread across 9 cities. About 3.5 years since we built it. And, Niranjan Uncle has always been extremely supportive of the entire concept of managed office spaces. And we've had the good fortune of, having a little bit of his time, get his advice on building and growing this business, for which we are very, very grateful. And I think there were a couple of really, really good insights that he shared with us, which has been very instrumental in helping us build this. Separately, I'm also the co-founder of Talbot Force, which is a prop tech solution provider. It's been about a couple of years since we built the company, and it's spread across 15 cities. In very, very simple terms, it bundles facility management services with facility management software solutions, which include things like energy efficiency, etc.
So basically, Adonomics is bridging the gap between industry and academia. Okay, so we see a lot of professionals, expecting freshers, to do things, but due to the gap in industry, engineering curriculum, they won't be. So that's where we are a bootstrap startup. We're trying to resolve this gap between industry and academia by bringing the industry professionals to interact with the academic graduates, and learn more and get the aspirations, how to make their career path so that they will understand, what they mean to be doing in industry, and they will design themselves in such a way.
So I'm Siddharth. I'm the founder and the CEO at the Solar Labs. We are primarily a software firm. We provide software to solar installers, builders, architects that helps them figure out for any rooftop how much solar could be put up on it. Right. So we can work on satellite imagery. We can input drone imagery or CAD layouts and quickly give an analysis. So. Some of our customers so far have been, ESL, Tata Group, Adani, and a large number of small and medium businesses dealing in solar.
Good morning, everyone. This is Arun Arora. I work as Director of Strategy and Communication with Mavyn. Mavyn is a digital logistics startup. It is Uber equivalent of trucking. It's a new concept that we got into India. Besides that, in the past, I've worked with companies like GVK on their airport projects, GMR, and I have also worked with Maruti Suzuki for a long time, and Jindal Steel and Power. My last stint was with Vedanta and Kane Oil and Gas, wherein I worked on metals, mining, and oil and gas.
Yes, thank you so much. I think, I hope I've not missed anybody, and we can, go on to now listening to the maestro, to the living legend himself. Sir, 1985, as the story goes, you and your brother saw a piece of land, fell in love with it. It was Powai, and as they say, rest is history. Would love to know more about your journey, challenges into making, Hiranandani, I think, a standard in this industry. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, all of you. I'm so happy to meet all. I know Anand Ratiji very well. Nice to meet Shashi, Asim, Sanjay, Sachin, Salman, Sharath, Rajesh, Hari, Harsh, Chitransh, Siddharth, and Arun. All of you, wonderful and good to meet all of you. I wish we could have had a one-to-one rather than all this kind of thing. It's nice to see all the people of various parts of the industry, and it's good to be interactive in it. Powai was just an aspiration. I worked in 11 buildings in Lokhandwala complex, and every time I completed a building, I made a nice building, and when I completed the building, I looked out the balcony of one of the buildings and looked around my place, and I found everything was so bad. The road was bad, the stormwater drain was not there, there were no street lights, There was no proper water supply. Each building had a separate septic tank instead of connecting all the buildings. And I realized that when you want to get into new areas, unless you didn't do the infrastructure yourself, nobody's going to do it, neither will the government. So I needed to choose a bigger place where I could actually do everything that I wanted to do. Land was expensive. I didn't have that kind of money. Powai was far away from everywhere. It was a picnic place rather than a place. It was a quarry hill. It looked terrible. And anybody who saw it, the only thing which attracted me was that it was opposite the lake of Powai. It was next to opposite the IIT. And the road was so small that nobody used to go there in the evenings. People would get scared. There were tigers from National Park, which actually moved over there. So there were very few people staying in that area. But anyway, it was cheap and it was large. And I just said, look, this is where I want to start. So we built everything there. So we built the road, we built the water supply, we did the receiving station, we did a sewage recycling plant, we did the gardens, we did 100 acres of gardens and forests ultimately. We built our own school, we built our own hospital, we did a go-karting track. Many of the children of yesteryear remember me, not because of the lovely buildings I made, but actually the go-karting track and the bowling alley, which was there. And people, the small kids would all admire me because I was owner of the go-karting track, not because I made nice buildings. So while you look up to me about the buildings, the kids used to remember me and still remember me. Many of them tell me, who are now grown up, and tell me that, I used to come go-karting in your track. And then we made the hospital and stuff. But the only common factor that you see is two things. One, I was brought up luckily in Malabar Hill, one of the finest areas in Mumbai when I was born. And I was a son of a doctor who worked in Breach Candy Hospital, Bombay Hospital, Jaslok and Naya. And so I had a reasonably good life to do, in the sense that I had everything which was good. I was having a good school campaign. I went to Sydenham College. I lived in South Mumbai. I had a good hospitals to go to. So all the facilities that I had were excellent. And I realized that if I make something in the suburbs of Mumbai, every item that I make, every building that I make, everything that I make should be better than what I have in South Mumbai. So that was the aspiration. So the thought process was only one. Can I make a building better than the buildings in Malabar Hill? Can I make a hospital better than Breach Candy Hospital? Can I make a school better than Catherine's School in Powai? Can I make a hospital, and so on and so forth. So I made the first supermarket in Mumbai, which is Heiko, which is still there. And retail was not my, supermarkets was not my forte. And but I still invested into it. So we did lots of new things with the simple aspiration that the quality of life of the people who live in the complex should actually be better than Malabar Hill, where I was brought up. And every building that I made was better than the house I stayed in Malabar Hill. And very funny things happened. I remember the time when I started my first set of buildings. I had a chief engineer, and I called him and I said, in Lokhandwala complex, there were several buildings and apartments which we made, which have started leaking. And I want to see that the buildings that I make in Powai should not leak. He said, yes. And he walked out of the room, but I could hearing him laugh outside my room. And he was sharing with somebody else that, the boss is very idealistic and there is no question of buildings not leaking. There is no question of anything like that. I worked in X company, one of the top, I won't name the company, a topmost company in Mumbai and a topmost company elsewhere in my whole career. And he was already 50 plus. And he said, every building leaks after 5 years. And, the terraces always leak after 2 years. So it's okay, this is part of it. And anyway, it sells in Mumbai. So where's the question of improving? I changed my chief engineer and we decided that we will make buildings that don't leak. The bathrooms don't leak. The plumbing doesn't leak. The terraces don't leak. And you won't believe 6,000 apartments away. not a single building, single bathroom in Powai doesn't leak. Not a single wall leaks. So it was a very simple philosophy that I took up. And I realized that this is something which you want to really target and do it. And you know why I did it? Because my building in Malabar Hill didn't leak. So I said, it is possible to make a building that doesn't leak. It's only that, you know, it became a character in those years to make things that leak. And I made lots of buildings, except maybe 2 or 3 buildings which we made in Malad were not so good. No buildings out of maybe 500-600 buildings that I've made, not a single building has gone into repair in the entirety that we have made. So what we did was really to stick to see that you make quality become a part of life and you keep your standards very high. Of course, there are challenges. And if I tell you about the challenges, you will shed tears for me. But that's another story and maybe for another day.
But some of the challenges we would love to hear, Doctor, if you can throw some light.
Well, I'll tell you some stupid ones. Like I decided that we need to do concrete roads in Powai. And they said concrete roads are not allowed by private layouts. So I said, okay, why not? They said, no, because if we want to lay some new pipes and things like that. So I said, no, we'll put ducts. So they said, no, we cannot allow that because we don't know what we want to do there in the future. So we want to do it. So we said, okay, we'll keep some footpaths empty beyond the services area. And those are not going to be concretized because we'll put paver blocks. And so we started that. And we were the first private layout in the whole city of Mumbai that has concrete roads throughout its length, except one sector where they banned us from doing it. So one of the earliest sectors that we did, earliest ones, we weren't allowed to do so, but the rest of the project, we did concrete roads. And that's what we do everywhere too. So it was there. And I was the advisor to Mumbai-Pune Road, where normally greenfield roads were always done in asphalt. And I pushed the government. By that time, I had some influence in working on policies. And I persuaded the government to make. So Mumbai-Pune freeway, expressway, freeway became the first greenfield concrete road in India. Subsequently, of course, Mr. Gadkari has taken up a large number of concrete roads at the initial levels. And one of the fantastic persons whom I look up to. In fact, I was part of the release of his biography, which we did last year. And I was very happy. I was really a guru of mine in terms of what he's been able to do and achieve. But I was partly instrumental to see that that greenfield project was done in concrete, 169 kilometers of concrete. Again, there were lots of stories behind it, which maybe I'll share another day as to what was the resistance of the PW department in order to make it into concrete. But big story on that too.
Sure, sure. Fantastic. So, you know, we've really not thought of a very formal format for this one because we wanted it to be free-flowing, interactive. There is a way, I'm sure all of us have been using Zoom for quite some months now. So there is a raise your hand feature. I'm going to open it up to everybody now. Please raise your hands and you know, I'll call that person out and, you know, go ahead with the question and let the discussions flow. So so we have Sachin from Gateway. Sachin, please go ahead.
Real estate is not seen as an honorable profession in general. So there are some blue chip companies or let's say blue chip names that we have in real estate space. And particularly the companies which operate in residential spaces development and sale are normally seen with a great deal of suspicion. There have been reasons for that, and we fortunately have something called a RERA as well as other regulatory efforts to bring it back to a transparent, a reliable, as well as an honest way of doing business in the real estate spaces, wherein huge amount of lifelong earnings of people are invested, and there are not one or two but many thousands people who have burned their fingers while investing in the real estate space. So my question is, are the current efforts which are being made in the regulatory space, adequate in ensuring that we bring in transparency as well as, let's say, accreditation and reliability in this sector or not? That's number one. Number two is that we have always seen that the possibility of bringing in a standard feature of development of infrastructure spaces as a part of development of any cityscape or development of a region.
Yeah, so I'll take the first ones first. Basically, the credibility. The point is, historically, this has not been considered an industry. And in reality, individuals and firms used to take up the leadership in this particular sector. And over a period of time, even the underworld got into it. So we really had a very bad beginning in my career to have been the comfort level of having people like Haji Mastan and those people to be in the industry and whatnot. And then, of course, extortion and all the other things followed, and things really went into the credibility. It was only subsequently that we were able to clean up the industry to a great extent, and various good corporates. We had a Great Eastern which got into it, Tata Housing is there, Godrej is there, all the other corporates and things have come, and DLF in Delhi and other listed companies both in the north and the south have really come up into it. But what really makes a quality product or a product or delivery into the whole thing, it's when you create surpluses in the industry. So whenever you get into it and you want good healthcare, you must create enough hospitals and healthcare facilities in order to be able to cover everybody. How do you get good, credible segments of any part of the economy? You need to create surpluses. 50% of Mumbai still lives in Jhopatpatti. It's a sad plight that we are seeing. And hence the people who are getting into the lines of business, whether in terms of redevelopment of slums, not everybody is a clean guy. And lots of people who have to deal with the slum people have to deal with the politicians at the ground level. And they are even worse than extortionists and other people. So, I mean, you can take them into one category, senior to that. So that's the first thing. We need to do that. And yes, the VERA has definitely improved it. But till the government's policy on housing for all and affordability, slum recurrence and all that succeeds ultimately, you will get bad sheep in the line that we are talking about. And it's similar to any surplus areas where there are shortages. So we need to create the surpluses, which we are trying to see that it is done both in terms of policy and doing it, housing for all, affordable housing, slum redevelopment, all these sectors. Once this development takes place, you will see better and better people. And fortunately, corporates are now taking much more interest in the sector. So we hope over a period of time, you will see much more investment. It's there in various things. Look at the warehousing space, because you are in the multimodal transport. You have seen the kind of warehouses and things were there earlier. And the new warehouses which are going to come up are going to be totally different. Mr. Gadkari again has been working on multimodal transports. There's a whole scheme in place. I don't know what is the present position on those things, but yes, the government has worked on the water transport, multimodal transport to that. I've had two interactions with Mr. Piyush Goyal for interacting these railway thing. So maybe a more interaction between people who are playing in the infra space to work out this part of it. We have just last week had a meeting on ASSOCHAM discussing these issues with Mr. Piyush Goyal in order to work out this whole system to get into operation. The third leg of your question, which is city-based development, which is the shame for our country. I mean, there is no planning. All the master plans are bloody frauds on the people of the country. As far as the infrastructure is concerned, it's a shame on the country. The entire water of Mumbai is, or it goes into the sea, which is untreated. In my two projects in Powai and Thane, we recycle 4 million liters of water every day, both in Powai and in Thane, every single day, and reuse that recycled water all the time. And the whole city of Mumbai does not recycle 8 million liters.
Can I request Asim to go ahead with this question, please? Asim.
Yeah. Sir, my question was related to your the example that you quoted up between Maruti and Mercedes. Now, that has become, in terms of the real estate sector, that has become kind of a norm in the industry. All the builders, all the developers, and everywhere, especially when I see in Bombay, the price point at which the real estate property is available, vis-a-vis the purchasing power of the people who need housing, there is a huge kind of a gap. You touched it slightly, but I would request, like, if you can give us some more insight on that, how that needs to be taken up so that the real estate is available, or the housing, especially in the housing sector, the housing is available at the price point, which is the purchasing power of the people who need housing. Now, that is one big, you talked about, like earlier, there was a situation when buying a car used to be a kind of a lifelong project, but Maruti made it possible. Now, something similar needs to happen in case of real estate business. The second point we talked about the technology adoption. Now, as we all know, technology, at the beginning of technology adoption, the pricing of technology is always high. But once it tickles down, we all remember, like way back in '96, when I bought a mobile phone, I used to pay 32 rupees a minute for making a call. Now, we don't even know how much it costs. It's hardly any money. It's almost free, the voice calls. So, do we have some kind of from the technology leaders, there is a kind of a roadmap where it can be worked out, certain technologies to be adopted?
Okay, so the first question is the same question which the Prime Minister has answered for you. So I'm not going to talk about it. I'll just tell you that the Prime Minister took up the affordable housing project in terms of housing for all, and they are constructing 1.1 crore houses in all parts of the country in order to meet the needs of the requirements of urban housing in that sector. So 1.1 crore houses are being constructed, and those sectors will fulfill the demands of that which has been assessed by the government. Government is giving 90% loans are available for that, for 20-year loan, and it's got an interest subvention of 3% for a period of 15 years. So today 7% interest, the people are paying 4% with inflation at 5%. Government, the banks and government is subsidizing your loan. So when you take for 15-year, 20-year loan for a housing project, actually there is a subsidy. That is a secret subsidy which the government doesn't understand that you're doing. Because you have taken a housing loan, you will be able to get a subsidy from the government because inflation and interest is lower. So that is happening over there. This is not happening with the existing projects, because these existing projects came up from a high land cost, high development charges, high stamp duty, high overheads of developers. The thought process of creating very, very super luxury apartments with marble and flooring and concealed plumbing, concealed tiling, all those positive things which were there. So that was the thought process, because they were all talking about the BMWs and the Mercedes-Benzes of the housing industry. So now this will move on and the different sector will come up. And those people who will do up that have to now look at that sector. But how is that sector produced and how do you lower cost? You only can lower cost, as you are very aware about this whole thing, is by creating volumes. If you don't have the volume of Maruti, you can't lower the cost. If you don't have volume in terms of production, productivity, supply item, you cannot do it. It's not possible to do. So if Maruti was to produce a car at, let's say, 10,000 cars to be sold in the country, it would not sell at 4 and 5 lakhs. It would sell at 12 lakhs of rupees. And you would be very happy to think it is still cheap. But because they are able to do volumes, so what the government really has to do is to work on technology along with volumes. So if tomorrow I was the government, I would set up similar to what has happened in the case of China, similar to what has happened in Singapore. The Housing Development Board of Singapore was created, and they built 85% of Singapore in the initial stages, because you needed to take, so for example, can you do the slums of Mumbai? They are busy giving it to private sector. They're auctioning it. They're cancelling the auction because they are not getting rishwat enough. And they're again going to re-auction it in Mumbai. It just happened last week only.
So thank you so much, for your time. And I also want to thank the other delegates for making this such a lively, interactive session. Thank you all. Have a good day, and till we meet again. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Niranjan sir.